Hey, good morning. It's old dude here. Hey, we got the channels in, got the legs in. Thought about building the legs, welding them up, and come to find out you can actually buy the legs already pre-made and powder coated, cheaper than you could buy the metal to build them. So anyway, we're gonna take a look at that. Okay, well I got all the clamps off the table, and it's actually sitting really not too bad. See, maybe 1/8 of an inch gap there. A little high here, but it's doable now. So everything looks pretty good, nice. It's pretty flat. I got the channels in, 4 of those. Got the legs in. So now the thing is, we're gonna route this out so this is nice and flat. Right here, route out a channel for these in the wood. So this sits flat and put them in. That'll help hold it flat. Get these recessed just a little bit down into this. You see, this is not this is not level because it's low here and high on the end. So we're gonna make that flat, bolt that in. This is the bottom, so I'm not as concerned with it. Just get them all the same level. And when that'll be done, then we'll flip it over and we'll take care of the top. But I'm pretty happy with the way the leveling worked with the clamps. You can kind of see this end now. It's laying pretty dang flat. This table's level. Once I get these channels cut, we'll flip the table over and we will route the top as flat as I can get it and then start sanding. Well, I can honestly say this table has taken a lot longer than anticipated, but we're kind of on the home stretch now. We've got it out of the mold. We've got it fairly flat. It's been sitting under compression for 3 or 4 weeks now to get it back to level. We've actually gone back in and routed the bottom about as flat as we can get it without taking off more meat. You can see from the video here that there's still some low spots in it, but it's the bottom of the table. I'm going to worry more about getting the top as smooth as I can and level. The bottom's going to be a little bit wavy. But in this video, what I'm going to do is I want to cut the grooves for the C channels and for the legs so that they set smooth and that they'll actually bolt into a completely flat base. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm using my router sled to cut these channels into the bottom of the table. You know, we started this table back in February, and I thought it would take maybe a month, but it's now into May during this video, so it's taken at least March, April, and May. We're coming up on June, and it's gotten pretty warm in Houston, so I've got to get the fans going in the garage. It also helps to blow the sawdust away. What I was doing here though is I've got that channel laying on the table and I've marked it out. You can kind of see where the legs go around where that cordless light is sitting on the table. There's a triangle where the legs are going to set, and I'm going to route that in using just a 1.5 inch router blade on the bottom of my router to get it set up pretty good. I'm trying to keep it as clean as I can and make the edges as straight as I can. Now this is my first time in doing this, and I really struggled with getting this groove cut properly. And what I wanted to do was turn the channel over to where the, let's call it the legs of the channel stuck down into the wood. So this first one I cut with that in mind. And after doing it, I changed my mind and I decided just to cut the recess flat and flip the channel over with the legs pointed, I guess, down, up in this case, because we're looking at the bottom of the table. But it didn't work very well to try to cut it the other way. And I kind of made a mess of this one and I cleaned it up in the others. Another thing I did is I used, this is my router here that I used, and it's a 1/4 inch router shank, and it's just not quite beefy enough to do this. It really struggled to cut these channels and to cut this wood at all, and I had borrowed, if you've seen the other videos, you've seen the 1/2 inch shank router that I've used, and it works much better. So that's one that if you're doing this, you probably want to just go ahead and get a 1/2 inch router and use it and not mess around with these smaller kind of a weekend routers, I guess you call them. Like I said before, this first channel was more of a test piece. I was trying to see how it worked, so I went ahead and finished it out. I cut it with the legs going down, so it's about not quite a 1/4 inch deep, and then the legs had to go to about 3/8 of an inch, so that it's got two little runners going down beside that 1/4 inch channel. I didn't like that, but I went ahead and put it in place and put the inserts in and bolted it in to see what it looked like. Again, it was kind of a prototype, and I changed my plan, and I ended up just routing out the 1/4 inch deep channel and not worrying about that, and left the leg sticking down so that it was flat inside, and that worked out really well. So once I had this channel bolted down in place, I moved on to the second channel, and this is a kind of a close-up video. You can kind of see how the router sled works. I would put my router at the lowest point and start working outward from there, because I didn't want to cut any further into the table than I absolutely had to. And here you can see where I put that clamp on this one side, and you can actually see where it pulls the router sled down a little more level and keeps everything true. But like I said, it was a struggle for this little router to do this with that 1.5 inch bit. Even when I was cutting shallow increments of cuts, it still couldn't really do it. You know, this may be a shock to know, but I don't have a good set of chisels, but I do have this awesome oscillating saw. And that's probably a good thing, because I never had much patience for chisels. But this oscillating saw is amazing at squaring up these corners and getting a nice clean cut to where this channel fits in there perfect. Well, that's basically the process. All I did at that point, after that point, was just repeat it 3 more times down this table. Actually 2 more, because you can see the second one in place back there now. Got it bolted in, and this is the 3rd cut. And then there's 1 more on the other end. So I'm going to shorten this video a little bit by not showing you every one of them. But you can see that these slots are really clean, because they don't have the 2 legs sticking down further than the basic body of that channel. So if anybody's got any comments on which way is better, with the legs up or down, I'd really would appreciate some feedback on that in the comments below. Once I had these remaining 3 channels cut, it was just a matter of marking out the location for the inserts, and then drilling them out, countersinking them, getting them in place, and then bolting these in. But I didn't bolt them in just yet. First thing I'm going to do is seal the bottom of this with the oil that we're using on the whole table, so that it would stop absorbing the moisture, and get the bottom set up to be just about finished. So these inserts are fairly simple. They just go into the wood and bottom out in the hole, and they work really well for holding these channels. I put a little bit of wood glue on each one just to help lubricate the hole, so they went in easier, and also just to give it a little bit of stickiness, but that's not necessary. So now this is just, I'm cutting the legs in. This is pretty much basically the same thing, except it's a little wider and not quite as deep, because the base of these legs is only about 1/8 of an inch. So that's as far down as I had to go here, and I've got my son-in-law helping me. I've moved the stops in a little bit because they're a little narrower than the channels. Something else you'll notice in this video is that I'm using my friend's 1/2 inch router, his router with a 1/2 inch shank. This router does a much nicer job of cutting all the way around. Much smoother, much cleaner, and it doesn't bog at all. But over to the right, you can see that first channel I cut that has it's a 1/4 inch deep, and then the legs go down to about 3/8 of an inch, and it's just not a good way of doing it, in my opinion. But again, like I said, I'd love comments to tell me which way is better. Well, we got the corners trimmed out for the legs, and we got them test fitted, and now we're just marking the holes to drill. And I'll say this, when we marked the holes, we drilled the holes, well, I created a little problem. I missed a couple, so I have to go back and work on these legs and do a little Dremel work to auger out the holes. And since this is a Saturday, my daughter showed up with her kids, and this is her table, so she's the boss on this project, and she likes to get involved and likes to learn how to do things, which is fun. Makes it a family project, but she had her hands full, so she had to get my wife and hand off the baby, and then she comes over, and I'm showing her how to put in these inserts, which makes for a fun family project. So now Mason's got the tools, my wife's holding the baby, and we're getting them put in. Now this is where I figured out I had a problem with the inserts. Like I said, probably the drill walked just a little bit, and a few of the holes were off. I had to do a little work on that. So you can see I just missed this one, and all I had to do was take my Dremel tool and oblong the holes so that the bolt would fit. So once I had everything test fit, all I had to do was sand this down, and then I'm going to stain it. And I took the liberty of shortening all of this hours of sanding down to about 30 seconds. So you didn't have to watch all of that in real time. I wish real life was that easy, but the sanding part is the longest time on any of this kind of stuff. It probably took me a good 3 to 4 hours to sand all this down and get all the edges smooth enough and get ready for stain. Now I'm just showing the stain complete here, not the process of putting it on, but I will cover that more in detail when I do the top in another video. It's a pretty simple process, but my daughter did not want the clear epoxy over the whole table, so it looked like it had glass all over it. She just wanted it to look like wood, and this stain worked out really well. So stay tuned for the next video. I will say this table has been a learning experience along the way, and a long time project. It took, like I said, took much longer than I anticipated, but I have learned a lot for the next time. Thanks for watching this one. I hope you enjoyed this whole series. It's been an ongoing process, I know. Give me some comments below if you think I should do something different. This is my first time to do this, so I appreciate any feedback you can give me. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying this channel. And once again, thanks for watching, and everybody have a blessed day.